Hello and welcome back to another video. On this day, 26th of April 2022, Avanti West Coast newly refurbished Pendolino train is now in its second day of service. So, I've come to Euston to check it out for myself and see just whether it's worth the hype. So, without further ado, it's time for me to head to the station and get this show on the rails. So let's go. Our journey today begins at London Euston Station, the southern terminus of the West Coast Main Line, at one of Britain's busiest intercity mainline routes, serving destinations such as Glasgow, Liverpool, Birmingham and Manchester, which is where we'll be travelling to today. Originally built in 1837, Euston was London's first major intercity terminal, and in the future it is expected to house the future HS2 link to the Midlands as well as the north of England. As can be seen below, Euston is very populous for commuter traffic, which, considering the amount of regions and destinations the station serves, is no surprise at all, to be honest with you. As such, it's no surprise whatsoever that the station houses a large variety of shops and eateries to get you prepared for your onward journey. Where I currently am is level 2, with a few examples of some of the restaurants being shown here. For example, Prime Burger, as well as Leon Natural Fast Food. So, plenty of variety as you can see. Having done a quick check on real-time trains, I'm now making my way over to platform 7, where my outbound service to Manchester has just arrived. And it is expected to get incredibly busy, as you can imagine from the amount of commuter traffic you can see in the background. As such, I decided to make my way over to the train now to have a good nosy around, as well as to get a good seat. Right, and here it is. Avanti West Coast's newly refurbished Pendolino train. Wait, no, that's not the right one. There it is. 39125 is Avanti West Coast's newly refurbished Pendolino train, and is the first of 56 to have undergone the £117 million refurbishment programme. The Class 390 Pendolinos were originally built in two series by Euston between 2001 and 2004, and 2010 and 2012. The units consist of 9 and 11 carriages, with offset today being an 11 carriage unit. Having seen photos of the refurbished interior, my expectations are rather high, so it's now time for us to board and take a look around. Our first stop in the walkthrough is in the first class carriage, which features a 2+1 seating configuration, and my first impressions are really good. I have to admit that it almost looks like a brand new train. You can see that there's mood lighting in the luggage racks, which really adds to the ambience in my opinion. On Avanti's newly refurbished Pendolinos, there are 2 first class carriages per unit. Having walked through the second one, we now find ourselves in Standard Premium, which is a similar concept to Chiltern Railway's Business Zone, where you pay an additional supplement depending on the time and distance of your journey, and you have the benefits of a first class seat. However, you do not have the additional perks that come with first class, such as free catering and on-board service. Heading out of Standard Premium, we now find ourselves in the standard class portion of the train, and I have to admit it does look really impressive. Whilst the seats do look really hard and uncomfortable, don't let this fool you, as these are the exact same seats as those found on Lumo's Class 803s, and I personally found them rather pleasant and comfortable to ride on the 4-hour journey from London King's Cross to Edinburgh Waverley, which I will be having a video on soon. Walking through the train, I have noticed a large amount of CCTV cameras. Whilst these do function as a normal CCTV system, the secondary purpose of this is that they're linked to the seat occupancy system, which is quite a nice touch and nice feature in my opinion. You may have noticed that I skipped Coach C, which contains the shop. This is because I would rather do a separate section on this as we get into the trip, as there are a lot of new features with the shop which I would like to go through individually. Another common theme that I've seen throughout this train is that the toilets don't appear to have been externally modified at all. Not to mention that some of the buttons are a bit skew, which is a bit weird and I'm surprised it wasn't resolved. Anyways, That's it for the walkthrough. So, without further ado, it's now time for me to take my seat and hit the iron road. I'll be travelling in standard premium today, as not only is the train expected to get busy, this also gives me the opportunity to try out the new first class seats. So, without further ado, it's time to head to Manchester Piccadilly. We start with the Know Your Seat, which reveals that the seat itself is rather plush and comfortable, as it was under the old Virgin interior. A standard premium headcloth is present over the headrest. The armrests themselves are the same as they were under Virgin, however, they've clearly been redone, as they were starting to look a bit old and worn down, which is nice to see. As for the legroom, well, that hasn't really changed much either, although I would argue here that it is still rather roomy, although there was someone sitting opposite me, so that made it less so. The tables themselves are made out of recycled plastic, which you wouldn't believe so looking at the design. Not to mention they finally removed the lights, which is a good thing to see. The charging facilities are now placed next to the window, which now also feature USB Type-C sockets, providing greater flexibility and easier access for tourists. Although the biggest feature is the aircharge feature, which is the charging feature within the tables that enables you to charge your phone simply by placing your device on it, as can be seen here. Although this isn't limited to just phones, as you can see that AirPods can also be used here, providing greater flexibility with charging any compatible device. The lights just above the seat reservations appear to be unchanged, which I was expecting would be upgraded, but oh well, you can't have everything in life. As for the seat reservation displays themselves, these are unchanged, which, to be fair, I wouldn't think they would require that much of an upgrade anyways, so this will be fine. Coat hangers are also present, as with the unrefurbished sets, which enable the hanging of coats, jackets and bags. Quite a nice feature. In terms of the window blinds, these remain the same in terms of the length you can draw them down to. However, they do seem to have been replaced, as they do look a lot cleaner. Pulling up the blind, we are now passing Watford Junction, where you can interchange for the Abbey line, as well as other Southern and London North Western services. Avanti West Coast services do stop here on occasion, only to pick up passengers northbound and drop off passengers southbound. What we are now experiencing is the tilt function on the Pendolinos, which enables them to achieve their maximum speed of 125 miles an hour. Any non-tilting trains that operate on the West Coast Main Line, aka anything that isn't a Pendolino or Super Voyager, can only operate at a maximum speed of 110 miles an hour. So this is pretty good that the Pendolinos can tilt, as this does enable a much faster and smoother journey from my point of view. We are now about to pass Milton Keynes Central, the largest settlement in Buckinghamshire and a major interchange for both London North Western Railway and Southern services, although it should be noted that from the May timetable change, Southern will no longer serve Milton Keynes. As we pass over the long Buckby Wharf stretch of the West Coast Main Line, we have time to take in some amazing scenery, as well as see the M1 motorway in the background, which shows just how fast we're going compared to the car. As I always say, rails over roads. Anyways, seeing as this is meant to be the biggest fleet upgrade in recent years, it would be rude not to check out standard class as well, just to see how much it's improved from the old Virgin interior. So, without further ado, let's go and do another Know Your Seat. As I mentioned previously, the standard class seats are the same as those used on Lumo's Class 803, another company which is owned by Avanti's majority shareholder, First Group. However, the seats were slightly firmer, although I can imagine over time this will improve. The armrests are smaller compared to their old Virgin counterparts. However, I find they do the job nicely, and they are new and comfortable, so I can't really complain, to be honest. As for the legroom, well, I was really impressed actually. As you can see, it is very spacious. Not only that, but there are also grooves at the bottom of the seat for your legs and feet, making it even more comfortable. The plug sockets really impressed me, as not only do they include a USB socket, they're also located at the back of the seat, which is a really innovative feature from my point of view. The table sockets are laid out the same as First and Standard Premium, with there also being an aircharge space. A nice feature on the seats as well was the braille numbering, aiding those with reduced mobility. There are also foldable trays at the back of each seat, but there's more. The tray is extendable, a very nice feature to add, and it is great to see it included. As with the old interior, there are foldable tables in some places, aiding those with reduced mobility, which is a great feature to have, and it shows how inclusive Avanti have made these trains. Whilst larger luggage space is great, especially with there being labels for bigger and smaller items, I would honestly say that putting it next to a window where seating could have been is a poor move by Avanti. Probably a much needed feature on these trains is the addition of display screens, in line with competitors London North Western Railway and TransPennine Express. Not only does it display the destination and next stop of the train, it also shows the journey progress as well as other features, including the weather in certain areas. For example, here it is in Stoke-on-Trent. We can also see our scheduled arrival time into Manchester Piccadilly is 21:05. This brings us nicely into our first stop of Rugby, which, as the name suggests, is where the game was actually invented back in the 19th century. As well as Avanti West Coast services stopping here, we can also interchange here with London North Western Railway services, as we can see on the platform to the right. These are for stopping services not only on the Trent Valley line, which we will be going on shortly, but also to Coventry, Northampton and Birmingham New Street. With 3 intermediate stops and just over an hour left until we arrive into Manchester Piccadilly, we've already covered quite a lot of stuff on this new refurbished train. However, there's still quite a few things to cover, notably what I've been wanting to cover pretty much the whole trip, which is the shop. So, without further ado, it's time to go grab some food. First of all, we can admire the ambience of the carriage, created by the new calm lighting, which is a rather nice touch from my point of view. The wheelchair accessible space can also be found en route to the shop, which looks rather nice and is clearly laid out, not to mention that there's plug and USB sockets at wheelchair level. Great! Right, that's enough detours, it's time to check out the features of the shop. Entering the shop, the first thing we can see is that Avanti have grouped their waste bins by general waste, food waste and mixed recycling. The one thing I have to admire on this refurbishment is how much sustainability has been considered into the design of the interior. It really shows how much Avanti are trying to look after the planet. What's also worth noting here is that the food area is a lot smaller than it used to be, but this is to make way for other features, which we'll see shortly. For example, we have here some digital display screens showing the menu, although as well as that, we also have the actual main menu, which is located just to the left facing the counter. If you do want to read it, feel free to pause the video, as there is quite a lot on offer, to be honest with you. Just here can be seen a small selection of what's on offer, although there is a lot more that isn't displayed here. What really caught my eye in the shop was the new water refill point, which, although was not in use, is such a fantastic idea and is filling a huge gap in onboard catering onboard UK trains, so I really cannot wait to use it once it's operational. In the meantime, do find out what I got from the shop. I wasn't really that hungry, so I only bought a few snacks, but I feel like that was sufficient enough for me, to be honest. I also received a leaflet requesting for feedback on the shop, which, when scanning the QR code, brings you to a SurveyMonkey form. On that note, I'd like to bring to your attention the Avanti free Wi-Fi issues, which are still persisting despite the recent refurbishment. It's worth noting that when I tried this on a Super Voyager I rode on a few weeks ago, this was working perfectly fine. However, when I tried it on the refurbished Pendolino today, it didn't seem to be working, instead displaying this error message, which was a bit of a shame, as I did want to check out some of the onboard service features you can access through the Wi-Fi. Our next calling point is STOKE-ON-TRENT, which is the largest settlement in Staffordshire and is also the home of the UK's pottery industry, which is why the city is affectionately known as the Potteries. From here, we only have 2 intermediate calling points before Manchester Piccadilly.
Jolly Ranchers.
My kids love the blue one. They love
STOCKPORT.
Yeah.
I remember when they came out.
One of the advantages of doing a trip at this time of day is that we get to admire the gorgeous scenery of the sunset over the countryside. Maybe not, but at least we got to take in that view whilst we could. Anyways, there's only one more thing that we need to check out, and that is the toilet. So let's go. Whilst the Pendolinos have a lot of toilets present on board, the wheelchair accessible toilet, just next to the first class carriage next to my standard premium coach, was the only one free at the moment. So, it's time to go in and take a look. What is really confusing is that the close button has the same label as the open button, but regardless, door locked, we can begin. So, initial impressions. It doesn't honestly seem like they've done that much with the toilet. It looks like they've just slapped on some Avanti vinyls, and the rest of it is still the same. Even the Virgin stickers are still present, and although the baby change ramp seems to have been pretty much the only thing modified, well, majorly modified, but otherwise everything else is more or less still the same. On the mirrors though, you can see that the "Hey good lookings" logo has been gone. As for the sink area, the soap is well stocked, the tap seems to be working perfectly fine, and finally, the dryer seems to be working well as well. And with that, the toilet from me gets a big thumbs up. Before we head back to my seat, however, I do want to check out one of the standard toilets, although not in great depth, as bear in mind this is one of the greatest fleet upgrades in recent years. So, heading into the standard toilet, we can see that this is more or less the same scenario as the accessible one, in that it's more or less the same toilet with Avanti branding slapped all over it, but otherwise I'd say it's clean and usable enough, so all good. Just over 30 minutes after leaving Stoke-on-Trent, we find ourselves at Stockport, our penultimate stop before Manchester Piccadilly. Stockport is a major interchange on the West Coast Main Line and forms part of Greater Manchester. The station is just over 10 minutes away from Piccadilly, with all services northbound either calling or terminating there. Shortly after leaving Stockport, we are greeted by a gorgeous sunset as dusk draws near. Not to mention that, with the Stockport Pyramid in the background, this makes for a rather scenic and pleasant backdrop as we conclude our journey into Manchester this evening. Right, conclusions. Overall, I have to admit I was really impressed with Avanti West Coast's refurbished Pendolino train, and I have to say that the Euston team at Widnes did a fantastic job refurbishing these trains, as it really has given them a brand new look and has really improved the quality of Avanti services. And dare I say, it seems to have redefined intercity travel on the West Coast Main Line. However, my few criticisms, which are very pedantic, are the fact that the toilets weren't fully done, even though they didn't really need it as much, and that the Wi-Fi wasn't really working, although I have 4G, so I don't really need the Wi-Fi, but for passengers who do want to use it, it is a rather major inconvenience. Otherwise though, I have to say that the refurbished Pendolino is a vast improvement, and I'm thoroughly looking forward to travelling on them more as the refurbished programme commences. The programme is expected to end in 2024, although there are a number of sets that have been done already. The Pendolino we have just passed, 390-148, is a recent arrival from Widnes after refurbishment. Anyways, that's it from me, and welcome to Manchester. As we approach Manchester Piccadilly, our final destination, I'd like to thank you for coming along with me on this ride today. If you did enjoy the video, please do give it a like as well as share it, as that really does help the channel to grow. If you did enjoy the video and you're new to the channel, why not consider subscribing? I upload frequent trip reports, train reviews, and comparisons on a regular basis. Anyways guys, that'll be it from me for now, as I do need to find my way to my hotel. But in the meantime, take care, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!